We all hear it, right? That old saying, money can't buy happiness. And sure, yeah, on the surface, it sounds pretty wise. But what if that's only half the picture? What if the real truth, like the material we're looking at today suggests, is that while maybe you can't buy joy directly, money absolutely can buy something else, something huge, choices, freedom. And for students, just starting out, that difference isn't just interesting, it can change everything. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the role of financial literacy in shaping happier futures for students. Our goal here is to pull out the key ideas from the Seedling Financial Education blog. We want to understand how financial literacy isn't just like a skill you learn, but how it's actually a path towards, well-being and a more fulfilling life. Okay, let's unpack this because these insights, they suggest a really powerful link between our finances and our basic happiness. We need to look closer.
You've really hit the nail on the head there. The source material makes it clear that financial stability, which, comes directly from being financially literate, it's a major piece of living a more fulfilling life. So in this deep dive, we'll break down what that really means. We'll explore why it's so critical, especially for young people, and then we'll get into the practical how. And it's all based on solid research and data. It's really about more than just the numbers on a page. It's about empowering people's lives.
Exactly. So for those of us already kind of familiar with the finance, we know financial literacy isn't just some buzzword. But for this discussion, the material defines it really clearly. It's about having those core skills to really understand and manage your money effectively. It's way more than just balancing a checkbook, right? It's mastering these crucial day-to-day skills, like budgeting. Think of it not as being restrictive, but more like a roadmap for your money. Saving, well, that's like building a safety net for the future. And investing, that's putting your money to work for you, for your future self. The insights suggest that when students pick up these skills, they pretty much immediately start making smarter financial choices, which then, leads straight to more stability and, importantly, more independence. And this is where the research offers some really compelling data that locks down the why behind all this.
Yeah, what's fascinating is just how clearly the research connects having these skills to actual, measurable, positive results. It's not just theory. The data shows quite explicitly that people with strong financial literacy, they tend to save more consistently. They invest more wisely too. And they're much better at, avoiding unnecessary debt. For instance, the material points out that people who actively budget are 30% more likely to save for emergencies. That's huge for peace of mind. And get this, a remarkable 40% more likely to actually meet their financial goals compared to those who don't really prioritize financial education. Just think about the relief that comes with having that emergency fund or the satisfaction of hitting those goals you set. So by giving students these basic skills, you're not just prepping them for today's spending, you're actually handing them the tools to face future financial hurdles with real confidence. It's about letting them take control of their own financial story.
Wow, that 30% more likely to save for emergencies. That really jumps out. It speaks to a real shift, doesn't it? From just reacting to money issues to proactively building security. Now, some might say, look, kids have enough on their plates in school already. Does the research truly back up introducing this stuff so early? Or is it maybe something people just pick up later when, things get real? What does the material say about the actual difference it makes when these lessons start young?
That's a really fair question. And the research actually gives a very strong answer against waiting. When you look at the bigger picture, it's pretty clear that teaching these skills early on, it doesn't just help with managing pocket money. It significantly cuts down on financial stress later in life. We're not just talking about avoiding a few mistakes here and there. It's about building positive habits that literally compound over decades. The material really stresses that these early money lessons are vital for building responsibility, for encouraging independence, and for growing healthier financial habits right from the start. Think about the long-term impact. For example, research shows that students who get financial education in high school are an impressive 20% more likely to start saving for retirement basically as soon as they start working, compared to their peers who didn't get that education. And that 20%, it's not just a statistic, it represents real people who will have way more security, way more options down the line just because they started earlier. So this early start, it directly leads to greater happiness and well-being overall, because they're building that foundation. That foundation of financial security and future choices, it lets them dream about the future they want and then actually work towards it instead of just constantly fighting financial fires.
A 20% jump in early retirement saving. Yeah, that's a massive difference. What does that tell us, do you think, about how these foundational habits really lock in long-term financial behavior? Feels like it's not just about knowing stuff, but about the actual doing it from a young age. Okay, so let's circle back to that money happiness link we mentioned at the beginning. If money itself isn't the direct route to joy, how exactly does financial stability, which comes from literacy, open the door to a more fulfilling life? What's the actual mechanism? The material suggests that having the right tools for informed decisions lets people chase their passions more freely, without being held back by money worries. So what does this really mean for you, the listener, and how you experience joy in your life?
Right. This is where it all kind of clicks together, and the material explains it really well. Financial literacy isn't just about piling up wealth for its own sake. It's about the agency it gives you, the control. Imagine being able to budget in a way where you consciously decide to spend on experiences that genuinely mean something to you. Maybe learning a new language, traveling somewhere you've always dreamed of, or putting money into a hobby that brings you real personal joy. It's a total shift, from just spending reactively to spending intentionally, in line with your values. The research cited even has this powerful statistic. People who invest in experiences report being 60% more satisfied with life than those who mostly focus on buying more stuff. And that's not really surprising, is it? Experiences create lasting memories, they build connections, they help us grow personally in ways that, frankly, material things often don't. So that ability to spend wisely on what actually matters to you, to align your money with your core values, that clearly boosts overall happiness. Because it lets you truly live your life, not just, pay the bills for it.
Yeah, a 60% higher satisfaction from experiences versus things, that's huge. It really makes you think about consumer culture versus intentional living. And it's not just about today's spending choices, is it? The benefits of financial literacy go way beyond immediate fun. They stretch into hitting major life milestones and even boosting mental health. The material points out that being financially literate lets you confidently plan for big goals, things like buying a home or maybe funding education, and definitely building a secure retirement. Achieving those things, that naturally boosts feelings of accomplishment, of security, and those are like essential ingredients for a genuinely happy and satisfying life.
Absolutely. And what's really profound, I think, is the direct connection to mental well-being. The research explicitly states that students who learn money management skills often have better mental health. That's a very real, very immediate benefit that lasts. Think about the quiet stress, the anxiety about money that so many people carry around. The material specifically highlights that those who feel in control of their finances are 30% less likely to feel stressed and anxious about money compared to those who lack financial literacy. That's a massive drop in a major life stressor, because financial worries, they can seep into everything, can't they? Affecting sleep, relationships, even physical health. So by giving students these tools to manage their money, we're essentially giving them a kind of mental shield. We're laying down this crucial groundwork for a healthier, more secure, and ultimately a much happier future, a future freer from that constant nagging worry.
That 30% reduction in stress and anxiety, yeah, that's a game changer. It really shows how financial know-how isn't just about getting rich, but about finding actual peace of mind. And look, this isn't just guesswork or stories. The insights we've pulled from the material, they keep pointing back to numerous studies, reports, all strongly supporting this idea that financial literacy is absolutely vital for long-term happiness. This is backed by evidence. It's not just a nice-to-have, it's need-to-have.
Indeed. The evidence is really quite compelling, and it's consistent across different reputable sources. Let's look at just two key findings mentioned. A report by the National Endowment for Financial Education, NAVE, found that individuals who got financial education reported 25% higher levels of financial well-being and significantly lower levels of financial stress. Imagine that a quarter of your financial well-being potentially tied to learning these skills. That's a huge impact on quality of life. It goes way beyond just having more cash. And then research from FINRA, that's the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, it reinforces this further. It shows that people who are financially literate are 50% more likely to engage in positive financial behaviors. Things like consistently saving for retirement, actively avoiding high-interest debt, both absolutely critical for long-term financial health. These positive habits, they don't just magically appear, they're built through understanding and practice. And they directly improve financial stability and, as we've been saying, contribute significantly to higher life satisfaction. The data really does tell a clear story.
Those numbers are incredibly powerful. They really paint a clear picture of how practical knowledge translates into deep personal benefits. Okay, so for anyone listening now, maybe thinking, how do we actually make this happen for students? The material we explored also lays out some practical, actionable steps schools can take to make sure students genuinely get these benefits. It highlights 4 key strategies. The first one is to integrate financial education right into the curriculum, which means, weaving it into subjects already being taught, like math and social studies, so it feels connected, not separate. The material even suggests tools like Seedling Financial Education can help make that integration work well.
Exactly. Think about a social studies class looking at economic policies through a financial literacy perspective, or a math class doing real-world calculations on compound interest. It just makes these abstract ideas suddenly feel tangible, relevant to their actual lives. It shows them money management isn't some isolated thing, but it's connected to everything else.
Absolutely. Makes it less like homework and more like, real-world problem solving. Okay, the second strategy is to use interactive learning. This means moving past just lectures and making financial education engaging, even fun, using things like simulations, games, real-life scenarios.
Right, and that's so crucial for keeping students engaged, especially younger ones. Simulations let them make financial choices, see the consequences, learn from mistakes, all in a safe space, no real money lost. It turns passive listening into active learning, critical thinking.
That hands-on approach definitely sounds more effective. Okay, third, the material stresses encouraging parental involvement, suggesting schools could offer workshops for parents too. The idea is to reinforce these concepts at home, creating the supportive loop that goes beyond just the classroom.
That creates a consistent message, doesn't it? When parents are on the same page using the same terms, they can naturally talk about and model financial concepts, turning everyday things like grocery shopping or planning a trip into teachable moments. It builds that vital support system around the student.
Makes sense. And the final step mentioned is to promote community partnerships. So, schools teaming up with local financial institutions like banks or credit unions. The aim is to give students access to workshops, maybe mentors, resources that boost their financial know-how with real-world expertise.
Yeah, those partnerships can be invaluable. They might offer mentorship, internships, or even just expose students to professionals working in finance. It really bridges that gap between what you learn in a book and how it actually works out there. Shows them the real pathways and opportunities that good financial literacy can open up for their future careers and lives.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just pull it all together one last time. While money itself might not be the direct path to happiness, what we've clearly seen from the materials today is that financial literacy, it undeniably gives students the skills they need, skills to make informed choices, and by doing that to lead genuinely more fulfilling lives. The insights are incredibly clear. Financial literacy isn't just another subject, it's a fundamental pathway to greater well-being, greater life satisfaction. It really pushes all of us to think about the huge societal benefit of prioritizing this kind of education for the next generation.
This deep dive, it really underscores that empowering students with financial knowledge, well, it goes way beyond just balancing a checkbook or dodging debt. It's truly about giving them the confidence, the choices, and ultimately that agency to design a future where their financial decisions actually line up with their deepest values, their passions. So maybe the real question for you to think about is, what are the ripple effects? What happens when a whole generation has this kind of foundational freedom, and what part could you play in helping to build that future? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.